You are watching STV 6 p.m. News live from our headquarters here in Accra, in the city of Douala. In our lone headline, the entire nation is in grief following the gruesome killings of students of Mother Francisca International Academic in Kumba, that is in the chief town of Member Division Southwest region of the country on Saturday, October 24, 2020. Activists, political activists, artists, religious leaders, humanitarians, parents have all condemned the barbaric act committed in that part of the country. To them, the perpetrators must be brought to justice. We shall be having more of that in the course of our news. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us once more on the first edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Spectrum Television. I am Kone. The impact of Saturday's barbaric killings on some students in Kumba has left scars in the hearts of parents who were witnesses of the horror incident. The fear to send their children to school is the only language they speak, as the incident remains fresh in their minds. Details with Josephine Binzi.
Almost like the pain won't go away and the wounds will not heal is the feeling this parent has as she recalls the events of the attack at Mother Francisca Secondary School in Kumba at close range.
I was in shock because I was behind the house. It's directly opposite my house. The school is directly opposite my house. So I heard the gunshots. I was behind. So as I heard the gunshot, we hit ourselves. But after the gunshot, it was about 3 minutes. It did not take long. It was about 3 minutes. When I heard the gunshot, we hit ourselves. Then later on, I have to run to the house, in front of the house. Then I heard one boy was saying that, "Hey, look at blood coming out from that child. It's behind the school that they were shooting." So I had to run, open the door and run. And I saw my daughter coming. She was crying. She was coming back from the school. As I was going, I just met her on the way. She was crying, "Mommy, mommy." She held her stomach like that. So I just ran to the child and carried the child. One boy just came like that and took the child from me and run to take the bike and run to the general hospital. So I met them there. From there, the child was in emergency. After some time, they asked for blood. We went and took blood. They go and give her. Then doctors without border came and carried her and transferred her here. So since we have been here.
Breathing fear in all four corners of the city, she affirms education for her children is an impossible mission for now.
Doctor. She wanted to be a doctor. For now, I'm not. I'm afraid. For what happened to my daughter, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Insecurity, I'm afraid. I'm afraid to send my child to school again now. She has been at home since this crisis started. Since there was no school, she has been at home.
Saturday's terrorist attack could be described as the horn that broke the camel's back, as widespread condemnation from international organizations, political actors, and Cameroonians who condemn all moves geared at scaring children from the classroom. Though investigations have been opened to bring the culprits to book, the entire nation is yet to recover from that act of barbarism meted on innocent souls.
And now the mayor of Kumba 1 Subdivision, Prince Eseme Moses Esembe, has recounted the sad incident of Saturday in Kumba, where at least 7 students died after unidentified gunmen stormed the Mother Francisca International Academic. He was speaking here in the city of Douala. Let's take a listen.
Yes, I left Kumba yesterday. And the entire population of Kumba is in grief because of a very, very funny incident that occurred last Saturday. In fact, some unidentified gunmen stormed the campus of Mother Francisca College in Kumba 2 subdivision, Fiango precisely, when these children were having a kind of catch-up class on Saturday, and had some of them shot. Several bullets were shot, and as per the report we got, after intervention of forces of law and order, municipal authorities and civil authority administrators, we discovered that initially seven of these victims died. But before I left Kumba yesterday, the number had stepped up to 7. So we have 7 persons who have died. A good number of them, about 4, have been driven to Fako and Littoral respectively to receive treatment. And then at the same time, as a reaction to what actually happened, the civil administrators, municipal authorities, and other civil society activists, we decided to stage a walk throughout the street, around the streets of Kumba yesterday, all in black, for 2 reasons. The first is that we had to mourn these children who lost their lives as a result of this, and so we had to put on the black, which is popularly known as a color that we use when we want to mourn. The second reason is that we needed to go around with peace branches to tell the population of Kumba that there is need for peace to be restored in Kumba, and then to make the people who have been going around perpetrating such barbaric acts to know that it has come a time that they need to stop such acts in our community. And so, as I left Kumba, the families that were affected by this very funny incident were reassured by the administration that the head of state has listened to what has happened, and the head of state has instructed the Prime Minister to dispatch a team to come to Kumba and condole with the families that were affected by this act. And we are expecting this delegation to get to Kumba probably tomorrow, Tuesday. And I know that as the population continues to grieve and mourn the children who lost their lives, the whole nation and every other person who has the peace of this nation at heart are there to play their roles to make sure that they condole with the family and to put a permanent stop to such occurrences in our community.
And also, former presidential candidate Akere Muna has equally condemned the gruesome killings of students on Saturday in Kumba. In an outing, Akere Muna says the perpetrator of the barbaric act committed on innocent children of the Mother Francisca International Bilingual Academic must be brought to justice. Let's take a listen of it.
The heart of our nation bleeds after the ruthless and savage killing and grievous wounding of children at a school in Fiango, Kumba. Yesterday, Saturday, October 24th. My heartfelt sympathies to the afflicted families. Who can explain, or much less comprehend, that the most protected in any society should become the very target of such barbarism? What is this environment that now reigns in our country that allows certain persons to lose the mere basics of humanity and compassion? The perpetrators must be brought to justice. We should remember that collective punishment will not help console those plunged into sadness, but destroy the trust we must build to unite against these forces of darkness. God bless Cameroon.
And today, October 26, 2020, that is in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, at the esplanade of her ministerial department, the Minister of Secondary Education, Professor Nalova Lyunga, condemned the barbaric act perpetrated in Kumba with her staff of the Central Services and requested for a minute of silence and prayer for the rest of the souls of victims of Saturday's incident. Instructions was also given to 10 regional delegates so that the same minute of silence is observed throughout the national territory. And now political activists, artists, religious leaders, humanitarians all over have all joined in one voice to condemn the gruesome killings that took place on Saturday in Kumba, with peace works being carried out in some part of the nation's territory like in Kumba, Bafoussam and other towns, demanding for the end of violence and for peace to take its course. Details with Oni Ladonet.
It is an agonizing Monday for inhabitants in the city of Kumba. With the tragic Saturday massacre still fresh in their minds, the population have all stayed home in grief, respecting the Monday ghost town imposed by separatist fighters. An agonizing pain caused by the gruesome killing of over 7 students at the Mother Francisca International Academy on Saturday, October 24, 2020. This act of terrorism has sparked a backlash from both national and international bodies who have risen with one voice to condemn this violent act, advocating for peace. The Catholic Church at Bafoussam, in the West region of Cameroon, carried out a peace walk on Sunday, October 25th, advocating for an end to violence and the need for peace. A similar walk was also carried out in Kumba in the company of the paramount chief of the Bafo people, Fon Mukete IV Ekoko, who urged the participation of all in the quest for peace.
You now begin to understand not just what Kumba people have been facing in Kumba, not what they're facing in the southwest region, Meme division, all these villages that we in Meme, facing the most drastic hostage situation, abandoned in villages and so on. But people in other parts might be going ahead with their life. Life is going on, trading is happening there. But I think the time really, let this mark a time where other parts of the country truly start feeling at what is happening in the southwest and northwest region. And let other parts, even of the southwest region, who might have a bit more calm than Meme, start feeling for Meme division.
Investigations have been opened while the entire population is still trying to heal from the pain brought by the nightmare.
The slogan is, enough is enough. As of today, what happened yesterday in Bamileke Street should never happen again. Yes!
Back here in the city of Douala, some inhabitants have equally reacted to the killings of students in Mother Francisca International Bilingual College in Kumba on Saturday, October 24, 2020. Our reporter Christe Asexuele captured their reaction and put forth this report.
Following the tragic killings of some school children on Saturday, October 24, 2020, at the Mother Francisca International Bilingual Academy in Kumba, Meme division of the southwest region of Cameroon, some inhabitants met this morning in the streets of Douala, expressed their grief to this gruesome and barbaric act. This is a situation that no Cameroonian will condone with. I can't comprehend how individuals will decide to gun down innocent children. Whatever the issue, dialogue is the way forward, not taking their grievances on innocent children. Angels, I mean, the situation has to stop and let Cameroonians all live in peace because Cameroon is one and indivisible.
Parce que le Cameroun, c'est un seul et indivisible.
Nous avons dépassé le Rubicon, c'est un peu trop. Bon, à ce moment, je pense que les autorités de la République doivent...
We have reached the climax. It's just too much. The authorities have to take serious actions. It's not children to pay for something they know nothing about. Sincerely, the head of state has to take serious measures to end these killings.
Parce que les parents sont en train de trafiquer n'importe quoi dans le pays. C'est tout ce que peut dire sur ça.
For these mothers, this act is abominable and wicked. It's abominable as a mother, a parent, a human being. No one can accept being killed because no one gives life. Only God gives life. Sincerely, it hurts. I watched those pictures with tears. The President of the Republic has to take measures to end these killings because innocent people are losing their lives, which is not logical. October 24, 2020, a date that will forever remain engraved in the minds of the people of Kumba, Cameroon, and the entire universe.
Let's now talk about something else. Elections. Cameroon has met with electorate today to help them master the electoral process shortly after the ruling of the administrative court. Campaigns will soon be around the corner, but some aspiring candidates are not satisfied. Details with Josephine Binzi.
After rulings of the administrative court, it was necessary for the election board to meet with electorates to master the electoral process, which was partly a success.
The electoral board is called upon by the electoral code to hold consultations with stakeholders in the process. And after the publication of lists of candidates and the rulings of the administrative courts, we thought it was important to meet with the stakeholders concerned so that we understand each other on what is to happen between now and the elections of 6th December. I was expecting more questions, but if we didn't have more questions, it probably means that those concerned, the candidates and the voters understand the rules of the game.
Though the process has been well understood, free access to municipal councillors is limited as aspiring candidates demand more to be done.
Nous aurions souhaité qu'il soit aménagé des espaces de concertation.
We wish that there is a platform for consultations and dialogue where candidates can express themselves freely to the municipal councillors, which is not a guarantee. And we know that the ruling party is really huge, and it's not going to be easy to convince the board to other parties' opinions.
De s'afficher avec les candidats d'autres formations politiques.
In the littoral region, 9 candidatures have been received, with 1 in the Mungo, 3 in the Nkam division, 4 in the Sanaga Maritime, and 2 in the Wuri division. Campaigns to imprint the impressions of candidates in the hearts of voters is next on the agenda as they anticipate the 6th of December.
And now, President, Prime Minister and Head of Government Joseph Diongute today boarded the Cameco flight that brought him from Yaoundé to Douala. The airline says it is a major milestone as they have successfully served the head of government as he makes his way to Congo-Brazzaville to represent the head of state. Details with Josephine Binzi.
It is via this special national flight that the Prime Minister left Yaoundé this morning, 26th October, to Douala. After landing at the Douala International Airport, Joseph Diongute was received by the Governor of the Littoral Region, Samuel Dieudonné Hadiboa, also by the Director General of Cameco.
C'était un vol spécial, nous nous réjouissons d'avoir
Actually, it was a special flight, and we are proud to have been part of the PM's journey today from Yaoundé to Douala this morning. All Cameco personnel are pleased. It is part of the success we have registered and the beginning of our flight last week. After 2 failed attempts, the company kick-started last October 18 to ease the mobility of Cameroonians. 1 week later, Cameco rejoices on the launch of its activities and ready to face the future challenges, according to the Director General.
Nous voulons nous réjouir de l'évolution graduelle de l'adhésion des
We are rejoicing about the evolution of the population, who is constantly moving from place to place. The next flight will also be ready due to the requests of the population, and we urge them to be optimistic. And also you saw today that the PM was pleased. The main problem is to serve the entire population, especially Bafoussam and Ngaoundéré.
Reprendre les lignes de Bafoussam, celle de Ngaoundéré à très court terme.
After Douala, the PM is en route to Brazzaville, the capital of Congo.
The 11th edition of GCAM Business Forum ended with 3 major points, one of which states the establishment of loans for small and medium-sized enterprises and major companies to be able to meet the economic objective of 2021, if not suffer the 2020-2020 fate wreaked by the disastrous effect of COVID-19. Once more, Josephine Binze.
90% of private companies have been negatively impacted by the coronavirus pandemic, according to Celestin Tawamba, president of GCAM, at the 11th edition of the Cameroon Business Forum, according to Echo Martin. The 11th edition of the Cameroon Business Forum, held in the context marked by the coronavirus, whose impact on the economy continues to be felt. The president of the largest employer group says the turnover of private companies compared to 2019 is 31% down. Their contribution to tax revenue is down by 51 billion CFA francs, and over the year as a whole, this drop should increase to reach 520 billion CFA. Cameroon companies, large, medium, small, very small, and almost all suffer lack of oxygen. For his recovery plan, Celestin Tawamba says the situation as presented has contributed over the years to erode investors' enthusiasm and in more than taint their confidence. To revitalize this confidence, GCAM proposes the implementation of measures in 3 stages. Firstly, urgent measures of appeasement, painless in the state budget that can be taken into account in the 2021 finance law. This concerns the payment of domestic debt through security. As a second resort, the employers propose measures of a financial, banking and fiscal nature. It is more precisely the adjustment of the rules of provision of the COBAC in order to allow the bank grant referrals of payments, deadlines, the establishment of support funds to large companies as well as small and medium-sized enterprises with loans guaranteed by the state to obtain subsidized rates and the granting of subsidies to certain sectors very affected by the pandemic. Thirdly, there are economic and structural measures such as priority sectors, local content, and in the promotion of national champion and national preference.
Of Central African states, BIAC has launched an international tender call for a digital solution to track down illicit financing in the CEMAC sub-region. It is part of the bank's vision for this year. Peter Susi with more.
The international call for tender by the Bank of Central African States BIAC for a digital solution to track and filter illicit financing in the CEMAC sub-region is aimed at fighting against money laundering, financing of terrorism, and the proliferation of arms. It comes at a time when the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development published a report on illicit financial flows and sustainable development in Africa. The report indicates a disturbing increase in the phenomenon. Cameroon is classified seat on the African continent as far as illicit financial flows is concerned. According to the African Center for Endogenous Communities, it reveals that the country has lost over 18 billion francs CFA in external trade due to illicit financial flows. The international selection launched by the Bank of Central African States BIAC falls in line with its statutory mandate, which is to provide viable payment systems and supervise their functioning across the sub-region. Submissions are expected at the BIAC head office in Yaoundé latest November 6, 2020. The scrutiny of files will not be public due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
And now the International Monetary Fund has welcomed Cameroon's transparency in awarding contracts to a contract relating to the response plan against COVID-19 health crisis. Details in the following report.
Speaking on October 21, 2020 in Washington on the occasion of the approval
of the second phase of disbursement to Cameroon for the fight against COVID-19 pandemic, the International Monetary Fund Deputy Managing Director, Mr. Hiro, praised the country's transparency in awarding contracts to companies in connection with the pandemic response plan. He says authorities have reaffirmed their commitment to the efficient and transparent use of public funds and to ensure that the finances of rapid credit facility and the resources released by the DSI are efficiently spent to deal with the pandemic crisis. In this context, the measures taken by the authorities to publish the beneficial ownership of companies receiving contracts related to COVID-19 are important. In addition to the publication of various contributions to the National Solidarity Fund for the fight against coronavirus, the Secretary of State at the Ministry of Public Health, Alim Hayatu, reviews 100 special contracts awarded to companies as part of the fight against coronavirus in Cameroon. The press release equally indicated the subject of each contract, the amount, the name of the contracting company, the name of the promoter of the company, as well as the progress of the execution of the contract. And now reacting to the gruesome killings of students in Kumba, President Paul Biya has today extended his condolences to the bereaved families as well as the education community. That brings us to the end of the 6 p.m. newscast on Spectrum Television. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching and have a beautiful evening.